on. Why hurt his family? I mean, they're innocent. You're better than that, Gary. Tell me calmly. Where exactly are you?
I'm at your house.
Honey.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 thriller On the Line, a film that is written and directed by Romuald Boulanger, and it stars Mel Gibson, William Moseley, Alia Sarah O'Neill, Paul Spearer and Kevin Dillon. Right, this film focuses on Mel Gibson's character Elvis Cooney. I think it's Cooney, yeah, that's right. Who is a radio talk show host, something of a shock jock, so to speak. He's been on the air for about a few decades, 3 or 4 decades. He's got like a midnight slot talk show where people call him with the problems, and he basically, says a lot of controversial things. He's also got a reputation for pulling a lot of practical jokes on the crew of his show, people like that. This one particular night, there is a caller phones in called Gary, and then the call suddenly turns sour when this Gary explains to Mel Gibson's character that he's holding his family hostage, and if he doesn't follow his instructions to the letter, he will kill his family. This then obviously triggers a drama over the air where Mel Gibson has to scramble to try and follow the instructions to keep his family and indeed himself and his crew at the radio station alive. Right. What are my thoughts on the Line? Well, this I saw the trailer for this a few weeks ago, and I was immediately interested. And the main reason I was immediately interested is that we've got a vehicle for Mel Gibson. Now, Mel Gibson's one of my favourite actors. Yeah, we know he's had a rough ride in Hollywood, and most of that is of his own doing, certainly, when he was put out to pasture for a while. We all know the stories. But it doesn't change the fact that he's a really talented actor-director, and he deserves to be in front and behind the camera. But these last few years, he's been kind of relegated to bit parts in low-budget films. Whereas this time, he's the star in this film. Now, it is Saban Films who have kind of funded many of his B-movie movies that he's appeared in these last few years. I don't know whether this was part of the deal for him to appear in those films in bit part roles to get his own vehicle, but he's got one anyway. So I was really interested in seeing it because Mel Gibson is a really, really good actor, I think. And I think he is easily the best thing in this film, Mel Gibson. Easily the best thing in this film. This film is really good up to a point. The setup is great. You're introduced to this character. You know who he is. He's not particularly well. He's one of these almost cliched DJs, shock jocks. The powers that be are constantly clashing with him because he's always being controversial. The other DJs on the radio station don't like him because he's so popular. He's horrible to his staff, or so it would appear. He's got this reputation, so on and so forth. You've kind of seen it all before, but Mel Gibson kind of does it with this charisma and charm where you're never actually sure if he's winking at the camera, sort of thing. So you're always, you never feel like he's the bad guy in this film because he does a clever setup at the beginning as well, where you see him with his wife and daughter. So you know that he's a loving family man, so that when this guy rings up and says, I've got your family hostage, I'm going to kill him unless you do as I tell you, that's already been established, that he would, is a very loving father and husband. So I think the setup's good. You've got this lunatic on the phone, and then there's this section where the film, I think, kind of deviates a little bit, in a sense of he's running around the studio and the building because this crazed guy set bombs up everywhere. He's done all sorts of stuff, you know what I mean? So he's kind of charging around the building trying to find this guy, still on the mic sort of thing, and it kind of, I don't know, it does get a little bit silly. And while I was watching it as well, I just kept thinking while I was watching it that Mel Gibson at times was almost playing it like a comedy in the way he was moving and running and just his mannerisms. And that does actually make sense at one point in the film. It is a creative choice, obviously, on Mel Gibson's part. Now, for me, I think I was on board with the setup and for much of the rest of the film. I think when this film drastically changed for me was the ending. It's one of those endings I think that people will either like or hate, and I'm more in the... I think hate's a strong word, but I was strongly against the ending. It just didn't make sense, and then they kind of do a double bluff that makes even less sense to me. For me, I felt cheated through the rest of the film because I was so invested with the characters and the situation and everything that was going on. I just felt as though that I'd kind of been cheated to a satisfying conclusion to the film. I think what we got felt a bit, I don't know. It just annoyed me a little bit. And I think many people watching this will feel the same. They'll feel like, what have I just watched? That's just wasted an hour and a half of my time. Which I think is a real shame. I think the film, for the most part, does a really good job, and then it misses the landing. It doesn't stick the landing at all, in my opinion. Which I thought was a real shame, because I do think there was a lot of potential here for this film. I love seeing Mel Gibson in starring roles. He deserves still to be in starring roles. He's very, very talented. And I think overall the film, while as I don't think it's a disaster, I think the ending for me nosedives the film quite drastically. If it wasn't for that ending, this potentially could, I think, be a 7 out of 10. It's well made, it's well polished, there's decent performances, it's a solid idea, but the story and the ending for me just kind of fell off a cliff, unfortunately. So that's why I've given it a 5 out of 10. So I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope you found it useful. Many thanks for watching. I will be back with loads more content on the channel very, very soon.